Chapter 21 Dorag betrayed the Navy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ha ha ha, Marshal Kong, I just came back. I didn't even have time to go back home, and you called me. What happened? In the Marine headquarters, Marine Fando, in the Marshal's office, the door has not even been opened, and even a person has not been seen. Garp's heroic laughter came in, then there was a bang, and the door of the office was pushed open with a palm, and Garp was seen sitting on the sofa with a bag of senbei in his hand. Hey, Sengoku, why are you here too? Garp looked at his old friend sitting opposite and smiled. Aren't you supposed to be busy in the office at this time? But he found that Sengua's face was not right, he was very serious. At the same time, he also noticed that Marshal Kong sitting behind the desk was also looking at him expressionlessly. Garp stopped taking Senbei's hand and asked in surprise, "What's going on?" "I've already taken care of that boy Barrett, and I just sent him into the city." "Garp, your son, Monkey D. Drag, wants to betray the Navy. You are really audacious." Marshal Kong slapped a piece of report paper on the table with an angry look, and said angrily, "See for yourself, this is the message CP0 sent 10 minutes ago." What? Garp was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out of his head. His buttocks suddenly stood up as if on fire. Then, at a speed that ordinary people could not see, he instantly took the information and read it word by word. In terms of intelligence, it was briefly described that CP0 intercepted Major General Dorag, who had just thrown down his code of justice and was about to leave the G3 branch, and sent him Fando. This. Garp opened his mouth and didn't know what to say for a moment. It was obviously such a serious incident, but he was so nervous that he had too many flaws and was unable to complain. First of all, why did Dorag suddenly leave the Navy? Secondly, how did this world government know about it in advance and send people to conduct a prepared interception, and the person they sent was CP0? He knows very well what CP0 is, that is the directorate of the entire cipher pole, known as the strongest shield of the Tianlong people. It can be said that only the 5 old stars are qualified to order them. Is it necessary to use such an awesome department against my own son? The most surprising thing is that they are actually preparing. Oh no, they are sending Dorag to the Navy headquarters. What is going on? Logically speaking, shouldn't he be sent directly to Judiciary Island for sentencing and then thrown into Impel Down City? He didn't think that the people in CP0 would care about his identity as a naval hero, so they could only ask them to do this because of the 5 old stars above. Could it be that the one I saved back then is helping? Garp thought about it secretly in his mind and felt that it was really possible. After all, that person was now one of the 5 old stars. No matter what, CP0 is willing to send Dorag over, which is a great blessing among misfortunes. Here, Marina Fando's own identity and qualifications are still useful. Wait a minute, it will take a few hours to get here from the New World, even if you go directly through Mariajoya. Then we'll ask that kid what he thinks. Warring States was very angry. This was Dorag, who he had watched since he was a child. After becoming a Navy, he performed very well at first, saying that he wanted to become a naval hero surpassing his father, but in recent years, he has become more and more passive and taciturn. The blood in his eyes has long been extinguished, and the passionate smile on his face has disappeared. He also had a negative attitude toward various tasks, which resulted in his military rank remaining at Rear Admiral. However, because he was Garp's son, no one in the Navy would blame him. In the Warring States period, with Dolag's strength, even if he could not become a general in the future, he would be more than enough to be the base commander of the G-Series branch. The reason why he might not be able to become a general is because the Navy currently has 3 top-level natural ability users as backup generals, and it is impossible to have a 4th general position. About 5 hours later, Marshal Kong received a report from a warship station near the headquarters port. After listening, he put the microphone back on the back of the Navy phone bug and found that Garp was staring at him. As for Warring States, he had already returned to his office before. After all, he was indeed quite busy. Where could he sit on the sofa and waste time? The CP0 ship has arrived, but they asked us not to go out to greet it so as not to attract too much attention. They will be responsible for sending people here. After saying that, Marshal Kong ignored Garp again, picked up the phone and called Warring States again, telling him to come over and meet him together. Not long after, Warring States walked into the office again. After all, his office was also on this floor. Dong dong dong. Not even 2 minutes after Xinghua sat down, there was a gentle knock on the door. "Enter," Marshal Kong called out, and then the door was slowly pushed open, and Dorag, wearing a green suit and a coat of justice, walked in first with his hands behind his back and an expressionless face. A tall figure wearing a white mask, a white suit, a white coat over his shoulders, and white leather boots followed closely behind. There was a soft bang, and the door was closed by the latter. "You bastard brat." As soon as Garp saw his son's face, he got angry and said, "What are you thinking in your head?" However, Dorag lowered his head and remained silent. He seemed to have no interest in communicating with his father, whom he admired very much a few years ago. This year, he is 34 years old, the same age as Kizaru Porcellino. "Garp, calm down first." Warring States stood up with a serious face, but he discovered a strange thing. Dorag's hands behind his back seemed to be handcuffed. What is going on? Ordinary handcuffs are of no use to Dorag. His physical skills that he has practiced since childhood are not fake. At this moment, the CP0 spoke. His voice was hoarse and harsh, and there was no extra emotion. This Major General Dorag is already a devil fruit user, and judging from the ability he uses in battle, he is still a natural hurricane fruit, so we have to use Shanghai stone handcuffs on him. Those who can. The three big guys in the office, the Navy Marshal, the Navy Admiral, and the Navy Hero, were startled again. Their eyes were all focused on Dolag, especially the first two, as if they were looking at a rare treasure. Ever since Sakaski, Porcellino, and Kazan appeared in the Navy, they had seen the Devil Fruit illustrated book several times, mainly looking at the natural type, hurricane fruit. Good guys, this is another top-notch natural devil fruit, no less powerful than lava, flash, and ice. No wonder you have to dispatch your CP0, otherwise with this kid's physical skills and domineering level, coupled with the ability of the hurricane fruit, even CP9 can't stop him, right? Marshal Kong suddenly realized, but that doubt still surrounded him and Sengoku. How did the world government know? In fact, this question is what Dorag wants to know most at this time. He is still confused until now. Mingming had no plan at all before leaving the G3 base, and he never told anyone, especially about the hurricane fruit, but at that time, he had just thrown off his coat of justice and turned into a ball of wind. Less than 2 kilometers away from the base, he was surrounded by 3 CP0s wearing white masks. He tried to escape, but even though he was much stronger than an ordinary lieutenant general, he was no match for 3 CP0s, and he had just eaten the hurricane fruit. Dorag, what do you think? Why do you want to leave the Navy? Chapter 22 The letter written by the 5 old stars to Dolag. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Dorag, what do you think? Why do you want to leave the Navy? Marshal Kong's question caused the office to fall into silence. The CP0 didn't know what was going on. He had obviously brought Dorag here, and logically his mission was over, but he still stood there without any trace of emotion. Means to leave, but at this moment, all the attention was focused on Dolag, but no one cared. At this moment, Dorag, who had lowered his head in silence, slowly raised his head and looked directly at the old marshal of the Navy headquarters in front of him with extremely firm eyes. I originally thought that the Navy was a righteous army that maintained order in the sea and protected the safety of the people. But what I have seen and heard over the years is that except for fighting pirates, nothing can be linked to the word justice. Because the greatest evil is the celestial dragons protected by the Navy and the completely corrupt world government, that with so many years of naval experience, Dorag saw with his own eyes slave-catching ships filled with civilians from all over the world, brazenly sailing past the warships, and the sea breeze blowing into his ears the cries for help, like a splash of heat. Oil poured on his heart. He once asked the captain at the time why he let them go. It was clear that the world government had long promulgated regulations prohibiting slave capture. But the captain's answer was that there was no pirate flag flying on the ship, and no criminals with bounties were seen, so it was not their responsibility. The world government had its own dedicated team to take charge, so don't meddle in other people's business. Such an attitude made Dolag's blood feel as if ice water had been poured on him. After that, he saw many small countries being arrested by the army troops of the whole country because they could not pay the heavenly money in time, while his own navy was responsible for escorting them to the bridge country in the East China Sea. Dorag was thinking, what did they do wrong? Isn't it the fault of the world government that levied too much heavenly gold from them? Even he knows that different countries have different economic strengths. How can they charge exactly the same amount? Don't the people in the world government know? What if we impose less levies on these small countries? These questions about the world government in his heart made him increasingly dissatisfied with the world government, and even the eyes he looked at his father became cold. Navy hero? What kind of heroes are the heroes in the navy that protect such a world government? The key point that completely made Dorag give up was that 2 years ago, he was responsible for guarding a celestial dragon with the team. At that time, he saw with his own eyes a child who was forced to kneel on the ground by his father and couldn't help but complain. After saying a few words, he was shot dead by a passing celestial dragon on the grounds of disrespect, and then went to the slave auction house as if nothing had happened. At that time, his fingers were turning white from exerting too much force. He was desperate for the navy, desperate for the world government, and even more desperate for the celestial dragons. This world should not be like this. Perhaps he was favored by fate and accidentally obtained the hurricane fruit of the natural system. With it, he would be very sure of escaping from the pursuit of the navy and the world government. But fate played a trick on him again, and he was blocked by CP0 as soon as he went out. Hearing Dolag's angry words, Garp fell silent. He didn't know what to say. Warring States also frowned. Of course he knew these were facts, but as a soldier, it is natural to obey the government's orders. It should be done, otherwise what else could we do? Dorag, have you ever thought about what will happen to the world and the sea, which are completely independent and without any order, once the world government no longer exists and there is no navy? Marshal Kong finally spoke up. After asking the question, he continued to speak without waiting for Dorag to answer. War. The entire world will turn into a battlefield and become an expanded version of the country of endless war. Chaos. The entire sea will be full of plunder and fighting. There will be far more pirates than there are now. Slave-catching gangs will rush to every inhabited island. Dorag, why do you only see the dark side in your eyes? Don't you take into account the people of all countries who live peacefully thanks to the efforts of our navy? Dorag looked at him expressionlessly and said, just maintain the justice, but you can't let the darkness go unchecked. If you can do better, why not do it? Corruption, bad laws, slaves, heavenly gold and heavenly dragons should be dealt with one by one. In front of CP0 behind him, he said such words to criticize the world government and the celestial dragons. It was obvious that he was determined to die and had no fear at all. Presumptuous. Warring States couldn't listen any more and said angrily, solve it? How to solve it? We are the navy. We don't have the power to solve these problems. What you said should be discussed and held accountable by the kings attending the World Conference. The military interferes in politics without permission. Do you think this is right? Order, what is order? Order is rules. If even our navy doesn't abide by the rules, wouldn't everything be in chaos? Dorag opened his mouth and was speechless. Indeed, if even the navy starts messing around and meddling in such things at will, it will become a rebel army. Then the world will really be in chaos, and many innocent civilians may die as a result. Even he has to admit that the navy is really the last line of defense for world order. At this point, even in the original timeline, Dorag admitted that the enemy of their revolutionary army was not the navy or the world government, but the celestial dragons. This shows that he knows what is right and what is wrong. To put it bluntly, even if the revolutionary army really kills the Tianlong people, the world's government and navy will still exist, which is a rigid necessity for the civilization of this planet. As for the heavenly gold, this thing is essentially membership dues, a source of funds to ensure the normal operation of the world government and navy, but the amount currently collected is too high and very unreasonable. Are you done? At this time, CP0, who had been silent and listening, spoke. When the four people turned their eyes, he said, "Then let me speak and you listen." As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a white envelope from the pocket of his white suit and handed it to Dolag. "You read this first. This is what Wulaoxing ordered me to pass on to you. After you finish reading it, I will repeat what the adults want to say to you." Dorag took the envelope with a surprised look on his face. 5 old stars actually wrote to him. What was going on? He was just a minor general. Even Garp's son didn't seem to make such a big fuss, right? 5 minutes later, he finished reading the content of the letter. The anger on his face had already turned into extreme shock, and the pupils in his wide eyes were trembling. Dorag couldn't believe what he saw. "Then now I will say what the adults say. You listen carefully. I will only say it once." CP0 said indifferently, completely ignoring the gazes of the other 3 Navy bosses. "Dorag, we also know that the world government currently has many problems, so starting from this year's World Conference, these problems will be gradually improved and managed. You can watch or participate in this process. If you have anything you want to ask during the process, just write a letter and pass it to the CP0 next to you to communicate with us. But one thing you must understand is that the celestial dragons cannot move. This is the bottom line of the world government. However, we have issued an order that from now on, the celestial dragons are not allowed to leave Marigioa without permission. Due to your rebellious behavior, you will be surrounded by 2 CP0s at all times in the next year. I hope you can be more patient with the world government." After saying that, he took out the key and removed the seafloor stone handcuffs from Dorag. Dorag looked at the other party in disbelief. He was stunned for a long time. He took a long time to react and asked softly, "Aren't you afraid that I will run away?" "We will die to apologize for letting you run away. You can give it a try." CP0 replied lightly. Chapter 23: The hard-to-find terrifying three-masted sailboat. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. On Marigioa's side, Im sits on the void throne and controls the overall situation, directing the actions of the administrative department and CP all over the world from a distance, including the letter to Dorag. He wrote what he wanted to say under the guise of Wulaoxing. Monchi D. Dorag, Revolutionary Army. How could someone as smart as him ignore such important people and things? On the second day of his public execution, Roger ordered Wulaoxing to send CP6 to keep an eye on Dolag of the G3 branch. Once signs of rebellion were found, CP0 would be notified to intercept and arrest him. Not only that, the order also specifically mentioned that if Dolag's resistance is too fierce and there is a possibility that he cannot be captured alive, he is allowed to be killed directly. Of course, Im would not kill him if he could. In addition to worrying about Garp, Dorag was also a talent in his own right, which could be regarded as giving the opponent a glimmer of hope, but if it is really necessary, he will definitely kill him. Not to mention Dorag, even Garp, he really can't be used by him, so what's the harm in him being a masked killer? However, judging from the report CP0 just relayed by Wulaoxing, this Dorag is quite rational and has not been carried away by those extreme emotions. Also, if there is nothing different from ordinary people, he can become the most vicious criminal in the world. Now that he has stabilized Dorag, he believes that under his control, the world government will become better and better, so he has no reason to form a revolutionary army. Good thing. There is also the matter of the Sorbii kingdom in the South China Sea. Of course, it is also his IMM's handiwork. Otherwise, no one has the right to change the amount of heavenly gold without authorization. Although this heavenly gold is essentially a dues from the world government, it is nominally an offering to the celestial dragons, and then some of it is divided by the 5 old stars and used as funds for various departments of the world government, the Navy, the Judicial Island, and the Impel City. As the king of the celestial dragons, the financial power of heavenly gold is naturally under his control. The 5 old stars are just stewards. Who is qualified to decide for the master whether to ask for more or less? Thinking of Bartholomew Big Bear, in addition to his very good combat power, his devil fruit ability is the most important, and it can play a huge role if used properly. However, judging from the information detected by CP2, his fruit ability should not have been awakened yet, so its value would be greatly reduced. It's still the same principle. First calm down and take your time. That night, summoned the 5 old stars to the Void Hall again, and everyone was used to the recent frequent meetings. Wu Laoxing did not need to ask Imu specifically, and began to report the situation one by one on what he had previously ordered. The bald old man with a mustache kneeling down in the middle was the first to speak. Lord Im, we have gathered all the mermaids and fishmen in Marijohn together this afternoon and sent doctors and psychologists to give them the best physical and mental treatment. We plan to wait until their conditions improve before sending them to another place. Return to Fishman Island. What he said sounded simple and didn't sound like much, but Im could tell from it that these mermaids and fishmen must have been tortured quite a bit by those celestial dragons. Indeed, if they were sent back to Fishman Island now, with their bodies covered in scars and their hearts shattered to the point of numbness, they would probably not get gratitude from the other party, but deeper hatred. The handling of this 5 old star can be said to be quite mature and steady. Well done. Regarding the treatment of the injury, I used the best doctors and medicines. I went to the doctors from the Drum Kingdom and tried my best to recover completely within a month. Speaking of this, Im paused, because he had always had the idea of turning a medical school based on the Holy Land Medical Department, gathering the best doctors in the world to specialize in collecting, organizing and studying medical skills. Dr. Gureva is the most suitable dean in his mind. No matter in terms of age, qualifications, or medical skills, he is more than adequate. Maybe the panacea dreamed by future Tony Chopper can really be developed in the future. As for the psychological problems, just call Lieutenant General He of the Navy and use her fruit washing ability to directly wash away the negative emotions of the fish and mermaids, and return the Fishman Island to an optimistic, pure and kind citizen. Im's eyes did not waver at all when he said these words, only cold and ruthless. He didn't care whether this would have any irreversible impact or side effects on the minds of those mermaids and fishmen, he just wanted to ensure that it would not affect his relationship with the Fishman Island. Besides, as long as no one tells it, who will know? Even if the people on Fishman Island find out, it can be said that this is helping them heal their psychological trauma and live a better life. At least on the surface, a clean and sunny personality is not a bad thing. I obey your oracle. The 5 old stars responded in unison, and then the old man in the middle continued to report, because he was in charge of these government affairs. Sir, according to reports from CP members from various places, the 23 kings who have been initially contacted so far have all expressed their support for the adoption of the issue and signed the scroll. Im on the Void Throne nodded, very satisfied with the result. Yes, let's continue. It's still the same as before, giving priority to kings with good reputations among the people and poor small countries. The only purpose is to ensure that there are no accidents during the voting process. As long as the issue is passed, we will start taking action immediately and do our best to promote the implementation of the issue. Yes, Master Im. What's going on over there at CP5? Have you found that terrifying 3-masted sailboat? Im asked coldly, looking at the lowered heads of the 5 people. Mentioning this matter, the most handsome and robust Wu Laoxing with blonde hair replied, Sir, the thick fog environment in the sea area called the Devil's Triangle is too harsh. There are already 3 CP5 members in it. Lost inside, the only way to make sure they were alive was through phone bugs. Im frowned slightly, but he didn't ask why he didn't use a compass, because he knew that the magnetic field of the Grand Line was extremely chaotic. An ordinary compass was useless at all, and the permanent needle only pointed to the next island, which was basically useless in that dense fog environment. This is why experienced captains at sea have avoided the Devil's Triangle for hundreds of years. Im's eyes lit up, and by recalling the content of the original work, he suddenly thought of a solution. Since the main problem lies in the positioning direction, it's easy to solve it. Just find the compass. Below, the 5 old stars who were kneeling on the ground frowned almost at the same time. They almost subconsciously wanted to say that the compass was useless, but in the end they suppressed it. But the doubts are still there. How could Master Im not even know this common sense? This im is so high up that he naturally cannot see the expressions of the 5 old stars who have their heads lowered, but they can more or less guess it. In the forest on Gaia Island, there is a big bird whose beak always faces south no matter where it is. Send CP5 to find it. Is there such a magical bird? Wu Laoxing, who had a straight goatee, immediately remembered the historical documents he had read and said in surprise, Gaia Island, I remember it is not. At one time, it was special, but not anymore. Im doesn't want to get too entangled in this kind of thing. The most important thing now is the immediate and future things. Let them find a few more guide birds and set up a department specifically to breed these guide birds. At the same time, let the Navy send a fleet to clear out the pirate town above. From now on, it will be used as a base for breeding guide birds. I obey your oracle. Chapter 24. The Navy and CP1 are in the East China Sea. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. East China Sea, the Kingdom of Oiket, is a relatively wealthy country that specializes in various types of lamps. Its main product is a variety of crystal chandeliers, so the main objects of the transaction are either rich or expensive. In order to maximize profits, the domestic royal family and nobles directly enacted laws to recruit all citizens into factories to produce lamps for them throughout the year. The citizens who have completely become professional workers have no worries about food and drink, and their conditions are even much better than those in many poor countries, but they have almost no free time, which makes the people here look numb, looks like a bunch of robots. Even if they saw a huge warship appearing in the port, the citizens did not react much when passing by. Only the soldiers of the king's army opened their mouths and stared at the groups of sailors holding muskets, stepping on them. Walking quickly down the deck, walking on the plank, the general who led the team quickly sent someone to notify the king, but he didn't dare to intercept or interrogate them. In fact, he has seen all warships in this navy, but this is the first time for such a huge one, especially the triple turrets and the 2 rows of large caliber artillery on the left and right sides, which are even more frightening to see. Is this the Navy headquarters? Your Majesty. Your Majesty. A king's guard wearing a white breastplate, a black leather scabbard on his waist, and carrying a long-handled musket hurried in, shouting continuously. King Senior Levi was sitting on a throne made of crystal, talking to Prince Lyle who was standing in the audience. Seeing that the guard was so rude, there was obvious displeasure in his eyes. What are you shouting for? Where are the normal rules gone? Prince Lyle on the side glanced even more disgustedly. Your Majesty, the warships from the Navy headquarters are here, and they said they want to see you. The guard quickly stopped and reported while breathing heavily. What? King Senior Levi stood up immediately. He was about to go out to greet him, but after thinking about it, he slowly sat back. Father? Prince Lyle looked at him doubtfully. Although they are from the Navy headquarters, I am also the king of a country affiliated with the world government. In terms of my status, I don't need to greet them. I can just wait here. King Senior Levi said slowly and softly. Prince Lyle nodded repeatedly and agreed. Indeed, who are they? The royal family of a country. Isn't this headquarters navy still a navy? 10 minutes later, I saw a naval officer wearing a justice coat and carrying a brown-red scabbard, and a man in a black suit, black shoes, white shirt, and blue tie who looked like a government official carrying a small knife. Black Box walks in. Hello, King Senior Levi, I am Commodore Langman of the Navy headquarters. The former briefly introduced himself and then remained silent. Then the latter took over and said, I am Harold, a member of Cipher Pole No. 1, a department directly under the world government. Someone from CP1. King Senior Levi secretly thought that something was wrong. It would be fine if only the Navy headquarters came, but if the CP people came with them, it would definitely not be a trivial matter, let alone a good thing. Welcome, welcome, why do you two come to our kingdom of Oiket? But on the surface he had a warm attitude. Please wait. I saw this CP1 member holding up the small black box, quickly entering the 888-digit password, taking out a brown document bag, then closing the black box and placing it on the ground, then holding the document sheet in both hands and handing it to guard soldiers on the side. Please pass this on to His Majesty the King. King Senior Levi took the document bag sent by the guard without knowing why, and found a document report inside. He took it out and saw that it was a communiqué of the world government. But as soon as he saw the content above, his expression changed. To be more specific, it became a bit uglier, but he quickly calmed down. It is indeed a good thing to establish an equal and friendly relationship with mermaids and fishmen, but if it is just to send a communiqué, I think there is no need for you two to come in person, right? King Senior Levi asked tentatively. At the same time, Prince Lyle also looked at CP1 nervously. According to Article 1 of the Communiqué on the establishment of equal and friendly relations between humans and the Mermaid tribe and the Murloc tribe, all merfolk and Murlocs in the joining countries must be returned to the Murlocs unconditionally. The CP1 member was seen looking directly at the king on the stage with an expressionless face, and his tone became more cold and ruthless. Buying and selling slaves is a violation of the laws of the world government and should have been punished, but Wulaoxing has given special approval. As long as you cooperate with our work, you will not be held responsible. King Senior Levi smiled and said, but we don't have any fishmen here. Are you looking in the wrong place? Your Majesty, please do not doubt the espionage capabilities of our cipher pole. The CP1 member's eyes were calm, and he did not pay attention to the king's sophistry at all. Half a year ago, Prince Lyle of your country visited the kingdom of Goa and bought a female mermaid from Marquis Abt for 130 million belly, which was currently in a new water tank in the palace garden. King Senior Levi fell silent. He had nothing to say and was also a little frightened. Suddenly, Prince Lyle couldn't bear it anymore, took a step forward and said angrily, "Hey, what are you talking about?" CP1 and Brigadier General Lang Man turned their eyes to him. Yes, I did buy a mermaid, but it was bought by Marquis Abt of the Kingdom of Goa in the Chambord Islands, and then resold to me. The whole process was reasonable and legal, so it is my property. Why do you say you want it? Prince Lyle is naturally unwilling to give in. He hasn't had enough fun with the mermaid yet, and even if he has enough fun one day, he can still make some money by selling it to nobles from other countries. Reasonable and legal. CP1 members looked at Prince Lyle coldly. The slave trade was banned by the laws of the world government a long time ago. Hey, there are so many slave companies on the Chambord Islands, and the slave auction houses have not been closed down by you. The slave trade has long been a fact accepted by everyone, including your world government and navy. Prince Ryan laughed angrily. Acquiesce, not admission, but upon investigation, your purchase of mermaids is a violation of the laws of the world government. So, you decided to refuse to cooperate with our work and then go to the judicial island with us. Following this question from the CP1 member, Brigadier General Lang Man's eyes became sharper and he completely ignored the dozen or so king's guards around the hall. You. Enough. Prince Lyle still wanted to argue. At this time, King Senior Levi stopped him with an angry shout. Then he turned to a guard and ordered, "Go and bring out the mermaid, and then send him to leave the port to the navy." "Yes, your Majesty." "Father." Prince Lyle was furious. "In that case, let's take our leave." When the CP1 members and Brigadier General Lang Man saw that the matter was settled, they turned around and walked out of the palace hall without any hesitation. They also hurried to 2 other countries to ask for Murloc slaves. "Father, why? We are a member country of the world government. Every year, the heavenly gold is handed over on time. So what if we don't give it to them? Do they still dare to rob it?" Prince Lyle was shaking with anger. Robbery. King Senior Levi did not expect that his son would be so stupid, and sneered, "They have orders from the 5 old stars, why don't they dare? What do you think Brigadier General Lang Man is here to do? Just for a mermaid to fight against the world government? Let me see, if this throne is really passed on to you one day, you will end up destroying the country sooner or later." Chapter 25 Meteor Volcano in Magic Valley Town. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The clouds were rolling, the wind was roaring, and waves of huge waves were set off from time to time on the sea. The huge waves rushed forward row after row, hitting the huge warships that they thought were too arrogant. However, no matter how the waves came one after another, they only can be smashed into pieces again and again, watching helplessly as the three warships faced the next wave. Lieutenant General Akainu, can you try to avoid bombarding Demon Valley Town? Our people and zoologists also need a place to live, and the houses there are just enough. On the deck of the warship, a CP-5 personnel looked at the extremely tall figure of Zhengyi and swallowed nervously. It's not that he is timid, to say that he is usually a person who is afraid of others outside, but the behavior of the person in front of him, as well as his strong strength and terrifying ability, even he is a little scared. A place full of pirates, or even a place dedicated to serving pirates, is too dirty. Do you want to live in such a dirty place? Akainu stood on the bow of the ship, just behind the triple gun turret. The muzzles of the three large-caliber dart guns pointed straight ahead, but his cold words were extremely serious, and he was not polite to the other party at all. Don't think about it. It's all burned down. Then let your administrative department come over and build a clean place to live. The CP-5 officer opened his mouth when he heard this, but he didn't dare to refute anything. He could only shake his head and walk back to the cabin helplessly. Akainu ignored him, looking fiercely at the island that gradually appeared on the sea level, with a terrifying sneer on his face. Humph, Demon Valley Town, under the nose of our Navy headquarters, such a sinful place has appeared. This time, no one can escape, that he didn't even consider sending him alive to Judiciary Island for trial. Such a huge piece of meat must be eaten and wiped clean. Kill them all. All burned. In Magic Valley Town, as it was approaching evening, ships flying various skull flags were sailing into the port one after another like seabirds returning to their nests. A number of vicious figures with tanned skin, tall and thick, carrying long knives on their waists, muskets, or even daggers tied to their feet, swarmed into the town with arrogant shouts, and then dispersed everywhere. Bars, restaurants, and brothels. During this period, Magic Valley Town had not yet been occupied by the Don Quixote family, so it was even more chaotic and dangerous than in the future. On a long street, if you look in casually, you can see 3 or 4 figures lying in a pool of blood. It is not known whether they are dead or alive. There are also 2 or 3 groups of people fighting. It will not be long before they have to lie on the ground again. But in the face of all this, the men and women who came and went did not make any fuss. Instead, they shouted and added some fuel to the fire, urging to kill one quickly so that they could drink and dine with blood and death. But no one noticed that a red figure walked up a hillside not far away, looking down at this dirty town. This person is naturally the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters, the replacement for the General, and the title of Akainu is Sakaski. In order to ensure that all the pirates were wiped out, he left the warship alone, walked around a corner on moon steps, and stepped into the land of Gaia Island. His mission was to focus everyone's attention on him. During this period, 3 headquarters-level warships took the opportunity to approach and surround him, completely blocking the chance of life. I saw Sakaski raising his arms high, clenching his hands into fists, and then his entire forearm gradually turned red and hot from his fists. Thick black smoke emitted, and the temperature of the surrounding air rose sharply. Especially the murderous intent in his eyes almost turned into a fierce glow. Meteor volcano. This is his strongest move at this stage. It is a secret developed after the awakening of abilities. He first compresses a large amount of lava on his shoulders, and then uses his arms as barrels to spray lava bombs high into the sky. During this process, these lava bombs will continue to expand. When they reach their highest point and fall, they will turn into extremely large lava clusters like hot meteorites, but this time he controlled the quantity and scope. Otherwise, if he really had to go out with all his firepower, he would be able to cover the entire island of a big city or a small country. The only difference between him and his true highest combat power is his level of domineering. To be honest, among the 3 current generals, Sakaski is the undisputed strongest in terms of strength. Just because he practices high-intensity physical skills every day, this is what Perusa Lino and Kazan are far behind. In Demon Valley Town, some drunken pirates were leaning against each other, and they vaguely noticed that there seemed to be streaks of fire rising into the sky in the distance. It was evening now, and the sky was darker than a few dozen minutes ago, but the setting sun was still bright, so the fire was not very obvious. "Hiccup brother, what do you think that is?" It looks like fireworks. Someone is setting off fireworks. The ground is being prepared well, hee 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 hee. Fireworks? Isn't this all played at night? What's the point of playing it now? Next, more and more people discovered the situation on the hillside in the distance, until the first person subconsciously looked up at the moon and saw the flame meteorite emerging from the clouds. He was a little confused before he could react, but soon his eyes became bigger and bigger, and the look of panic on his face became more intense. The next moment, an extremely high-pitched scream exploded. Meteorite! Everyone's heads were raised in unison, and in the sight of the men and women on the street, almost indescribable fireballs appeared on the ground, and they were falling towards where they were. Boom! It was chaos, complete chaos. Everyone started screaming, fleeing, running desperately towards the port. Some pirates didn't even want to call the captain and his friends in the tavern, they just wanted to survive, but as soon as these quick-legged people approached the port, they found that the place was also in chaos. Military, warship. The Navy is coming. 3 warships from the Navy headquarters. My God, it's over, it's too late. An old pirate who was nearly 50 years old slumped on the ground in despair. They really didn't expect that this Demon Valley town, which had been peaceful for more than 10 years, would have such a day. If they had known it, they would not come. At the same time, 7 or 8 meteor volcanoes landed smoothly, and there were constant explosions. Some of them hit the tavern, some hit the restaurant, and some even hit the brothel where men and women were enjoying themselves. Large swaths of rolling lava rushed in all directions like waves. The magma, which was far more terrifying than natural lava, was like a demon from the abyss, swallowing up everything in life around it. For a time, screams, wailing, crying and other sounds full of despair came one after another. Although there were only 7 or 8 lava meteors, it was more than enough for this small town of Magic Valley. The lava-like flowing water flowed freely on the streets and filled the air, making it difficult to find a place to stay. Not only that, the 3 headquarters-level warships were already in position, facing the direction of Magic Valley town. Each ship had 12 large-caliber artillery pieces, plus a triple anti-aircraft battery, spitting out red cannonballs that burned to the ground. The huge explosion of fire completely covered the entire port, and every moment, pirate ships were covered in flames and sank to the bottom of the sea. If him could see this scene, he could easily see that the power of these shells completely exceeded the same type of shells in the previous life. Each one is comparable to the Tomahawk cruise missile. It is said that the War Behemoth-class warships specially used to execute the demon-slaying order have more powerful shells. It's just that its range is a bit too close. At the other end of Gaia Island, with a chestnut on his head, Mtlnovel looked at the bright fire from a distance, listened to the frightening explosions, and quickly escaped by boat with the orangutan and the orangutan. Thinking that he would come back and have a look after a while to avoid this catastrophe. Chapter 26 Green Pheasant visits the Drum Kingdom. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. The sky and the earth are completely white, and snowflakes are flying in the cold wind. The whole island is decorated with snow as if it is covered with a white carpet. The mountains connected by snow-capped mountains make the 8 towering peaks extremely spectacular. This is the Kingdom of the Drum, one of the participating countries of the world government, a very typical winter island located in the first half of the Grand Route. Although the snowflakes are falling at this time, this is already a rare good weather in this country. At least the wind today is quite gentle. On the dock, the current King Arnold, who had purple hair, a white fur hat, and a thick winter coat, glanced at the gun-wielding soldiers in charge of the realm around him, and gave endless instructions to the officials behind him. Are you all ready? The world government's visiting ship will arrive in half an hour. No mistakes are allowed. The official nodded and bowed his head and answered quickly. Don't worry, there will definitely be no accidents on the way from here to the main peak. Those carnivorous rabbits have been lured 5 kilometers away with raw meat. They will definitely not be able to come back within a few hours. The cable car is also ready. Check it out. Many times, no issues. Well, where are those two boys? Why haven't they come here yet? King Arnold asked somewhat unhappily. Well, Prince Mtlnovel and Prince Valpo think it's too cold outside. After all, the two princes are only 5 or 6 years old this year, so they are indeed young. The official replied awkwardly. Cold? King Arnold sneered, when it's colder than this, why don't we still have a snowball fight outside the castle? Who cares? It's too boring to come and wait. Forget it, leave them alone. He originally wanted to bring his two sons to greet him so that he could show his face in front of Minister Mulvaney who was visiting this time. This is the Minister of Administration of the World Government. Your Majesty, why does this minister suddenly want to visit our country? The official looked at the unobstructed sea with doubts. The sea with flying snowflakes looked very poetic. I don't know, it wasn't mentioned in the notice, but I guess it has something to do with this year's World Conference. Other than that, I really can't think of anything else that would be worthy of the minister's personal visit. King Arnold said as he stood patiently waiting. Sure enough, the world government's visiting ship was on time. 30 minutes later, escorted by 2 naval warships, it slowly sailed into the port of the Drum Kingdom. Soon, a white-haired middle-aged man more than 2 meters tall in a suit and leather jacket, wearing a thick black leather coat, and a naval officer who was estimated to be 3 meters tall walked off their respective ships. At the same time, a strong and energetic sailor from the headquarters dispersed and took over the security work of the entire port in an instant. Ha ha ha, welcome. It's a great honor to receive Minister Mulvaney in this country. I will treat you well this time. King Arnold laughed and walked over with great enthusiasm. Minister Mulvaney shook hands and said with a smile, I was also ordered by the adults. Because the matter was a bit complicated and important, I came here in person. Oh. Can you tell me what it is? King Arnold trembled in his heart. This was related to the world government, and it was very complicated. It was an important matter, and it didn't sound like a good thing. That's a good thing. Your Drum Kingdom is in great luck this time, mainly because your reputation as a major medical country is very famous overseas. After speaking, Secretary Mulvaney introduced the tall naval officer next to him. This is Lieutenant General Kazan, the newly promoted admiral, nicknamed Akiji. He also came with a very important mission this time. He didn't just send me here. I am not qualified to enjoy such a high-level escort. Hello, King Arnold, please give me your advice. Kazan said hello seriously, lowering his head. The general's replacement. He's the one with the top natural frozen fruit ability. King Arnold was stunned, and now he felt even more uneasy and worried. After being the king of a franchised country for so many years and participating in world conferences for so many years, he still has some knowledge. With the strength of Lieutenant General Aoki Pheasant, the guards under him are no match for each other, right? La, that's right. Speaking of which, this country is really nice, especially the climate and wind here are just right and comfortable. I already like it here. Enjoying the cold wind and falling snow, Kazan looked at the continuous snow-capped mountains on the island and the exaggerated 8 drum-like peaks in the highlands. It is said that each of the 8 peaks is 5,000 meters high, but when I think about the order I received this time, I feel a little tired and helpless when I look at these mountain peaks. You must like the climate of our Drum Kingdom very much. If you don't mind, you can stay a few more days. King Arnold still maintained his enthusiasm, thinking that at least with this person in charge, he would no longer have to worry about pirates in the meantime. In recent days, for some unknown reason, more pirates have landed on the island trying to rob, causing the casualties of the escort team to rise sharply. Then please, I really need to stay for a while when I come here this time. Kazan nodded. Hearing this, King Arnold was filled with questions, but he did not continue to ask any more questions, and quickly led the two of them to the snow hippo carriage that had been prepared. About an hour later, the entire team passed through the town with a large number of citizens watching, and arrived at the top of a snow-capped mountain, where a gorgeous large cable car had already been parked. Since the Royal Palace Castle is located at the top of the main peak, we need to take this cable car up. You can rest assured that the whole process is very safe and stable, and you can also enjoy the scenery of the snow country on the way. As King Arnold introduced, he led Minister Mulvaney and Lieutenant General Kazan into the cable car. 5 minutes later, the cable car started and slid along the straight cable to the high snow-colored peaks. There is a height of 5,000 meters from the ground to the top of the mountain. Although this cable car is good, it still has some shortcomings in terms of load capacity and efficiency, right? Secretary Mulvaney looked out the window and said softly. Yes, there are 2 aerial ropeways connecting the ground to the main peak, so only 2 cable cars can be used at a time. Each cable car can carry up to 20 people. This makes it very time-consuming when a large amount of materials need to be transported. If we encounter a snowstorm, we have to stop temporarily. King Arnold sighed. Lieutenant General Akiji is here to help you solve this problem this time. Your Drum Kingdom really has to thank the world government this time. After speaking, Secretary Mulvaney looked at Kazan aside and asked with a smile, how about it? See the environment on the ground, can you solve it? The height of 5,000 meters is a bit difficult. I can't do it in one go now. It will take about 10 days. Kazan just felt tired. The conversation between these 2 people made King Arnold confused. At this time, Minister Mulvaney pointed to other tsigu peaks around the main peak. Your Majesty the King, how does your country use these peaks? Are there any buildings? No, those are all empty, and our kingdom doesn't have that many citizens. King Arnold shook his head. In fact, it is they, the royal families of the past generations, who do not want the common people to live at the same level as them, which is a bit like Marie Joa from the world's nobles. Really, that's good, that's great. Minister Mulvaney clapped his hands happily. Chapter 27 World Government Medical Development Cooperation Countries. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Returning to the kingdom castle at the top of the main peak, King Arnold sat on the throne made of white iron without hesitation, looking down at Minister Mulvaney and Lieutenant General Kazan standing in the audience. From this moment on, the talks between the franchised countries and the world government officially entered. The previous greetings and the courtesy upon arrival were all considered as private etiquette, which fully showed respect to the other party, but now, the aura that a king should still be present. So, now can you tell me what you are doing in my Drum Kingdom? Along the way, the administrative minister and General Ho Bujing in front of him played riddles with him, and their words were confusing, which had already aroused the king's curiosity. His Majesty King Arnold, this time I am here to discuss with you the matter of establishing the Drum Kingdom as a World Government Medical Development Cooperation country under the order of the Government Council. As he spoke, Minister Mulvaney took out a scroll with gold thread and white background from his arms and said, "This is a cooperation agreement. If you agree, you just need to sign it." At the same time, the previous official came over, took the scroll, and sent it to the king on the stage. The king took the scroll, opened it, and read it. As he looked at it, surprise appeared in his eyes. What a great thing. This scroll says that the so-called World Government Medical Development Cooperation country means that the world government will promote, support and encourage the research and development of medical treatment in the Drum Kingdom. Starting from next year, as long as the medical development of the Drum Kingdom passes the review of the Government Affairs Council, the amount of Tianshengjian will be reduced to a certain extent every year, up to 50%. At the same time, the world government and the Drum Kingdom jointly established a medical school, which is responsible for the collection, organization and in-depth research of world medicine, and is required to serve the world government free of charge. Of course, the so-called free only means that when the medical school is needed, the medical school cannot charge anything. In fact, the world government is mainly responsible for the big part of the medical school's funds, and the Drum Kingdom is responsible for the small part. Moreover, Dr. Gureva, who is 117 years old this year, was also appointed as the first dean of the medical school. This made King Arnold's eyes jump. It should be said that this Dr. Gureva is indeed the best in the medical field of the Drum Kingdom in terms of medical skills and qualifications, but her character is too perverse. To be honest, having this person serve as the dean gives people a rather unreliable feeling. Keep reading. The world government hopes that the medical school led by Dr. Gureva can establish a rigorous physician promotion system and standardize doctors all over the world. If future doctors want to improve their physician level, they will need to go to the Drum Kingdom to take assessments. King Arnold's eyes lit up when he saw this. He's not stupid, this is simply to regard the Drum Kingdom as the center of world medicine. Quick! Send someone to ask Dr. Gureva to come over. Tell her that the world government is looking for her. It's a very important matter. The king quickly ordered to the officials below. Yes, Your Majesty. The official walked out of the castle hall quickly. At this moment, Minister Mulvaney of the Administration Department spoke again. I guess you have also seen the establishment of a medical school. Didn't I ask you about other Tsigu peaks before? I hope to build the medical school on one of the peaks. What do you think? This. King Arnold was a little bit pained. To be honest, he didn't really want to do this. Otherwise, wouldn't those civilians be able to reach the same level as their royal family in the future? But the minister said so, and he really didn't have any suitable reasons to refute it. In addition, he also very much hoped that the medical school could be built. In the end, he gritted his teeth and nodded, okay, no problem. In a few days, I will have someone build the aerial ropeway and cable car on the mountain on the left. Regarding this matter, our world government also has a certain plan. Minister Mulvaney was very happy that everything went well and was in a very happy mood. Lieutenant General Aoki will find ways to solve the problem of transportation difficulties. Oh, King Arnold looked at the overly tall general in surprise and saw Kazan touching his chin and saying thoughtfully, when I came in just now, I took a look at the surrounding Tsigu peaks and found that the distance between them is not very far. It should be possible to connect them all by using ice bridges, so that there can be free passage between the peaks. What, connect 8 drum peaks together? King Arnold stood up in shock and showed great surprise. In this way, the 7 drum peaks that had been idle could be used, which was equivalent to increasing the area of the kingdom. Yes, I actually strongly recommend that your country move its citizens below, because the town is located too low, just below the snow-capped mountains. It would be too dangerous if there is an avalanche. Kazan said sincerely suggested, there are not many citizens in the Siga kingdom. Even if one Sigam peak is used for medical school, the remaining 6 can fully accommodate all the citizens. This. King Arnold was troubled again. It was enough for the doctors to be on an equal footing with him. Why did he have to bring in even the lowest civilians? As for avalanches and the like, he really doesn't care. Avalanches do occur occasionally in the country, but haven't the people down there been living well over the years? But just like before, what Kazan said made sense. He had no suitable reason to refuse, plus the other party's identity, a future Navy admiral. If one day we are attacked by pirates who are too powerful, we have to point them over to help deal with them. Lieutenant General Akiji, even if we have to relocate the citizens, this is not an easy task. Based on the transportation efficiency of the cable car alone, it will take several years to complete. King Arnold tried to struggle. Yes, although the cable car cannot be given up, it can no longer be used as the main mode of transportation in the future, so for most of the next time, I will create a step connecting the ground and the main peak. Because the height is a full 5,000 meters, every kilometer requires a relatively spacious platform for people to rest. Alas, no matter how you look at it, this is a big project. Kazan sighed helplessly. Ever since he had built a thick and useful ice battlefield for General Sengoku and Lieutenant General Garp, he seemed to have been targeted by the world government. Now it has become a construction team, well, a one-person construction team, but he also knew that this matter was a great thing for the citizens of the Drum Kingdom, and it could be called a just mission, worthy of the word justice that he had to bear. Therefore, in fact, I don't have any resentment in my heart. Instead, I feel a little happy and expectant. At the same time, my impression of the world government has also improved a lot. It'll just take a few days, since his frozen fruit hasn't awakened yet. Chapter 28: Gureva's Research Project and the New Star Gate. You are listening at MTnovel Audi. Dr. Gureva has arrived. The slender white-haired woman who came down from the cable car was wearing a set of purple-blue jeans and a jacket, with only a thin white t-shirt underneath, and a pair of small light yellow sunglasses on her forehead. The overall appearance not only does not look like a 117-year-old super old man at all, but instead looks like a middle-aged old lady, with a very evil spirit all over her body. Phew, I haven't been here in years. Gureva looked up at the majestic snow-white castle in front of her, with a bohemian smile on her face. Here please, His Majesty the King, Minister Mulvaney from the World Government, and Vice Admiral Akiji from the Navy Headquarters are waiting for you inside. The previous official raised his palm respectfully and pointed at the castle gate. Let's go. Gureva had already heard the other party talk about the medical development cooperation and the establishment of the Drum Medical College on the way, otherwise she would have no interest in coming, even if it was an invitation from the king. As soon as he walked into the reception hall, a wave of heat hit his face. Although the climate in the Siga kingdom was cold, the royal family would not treat him badly. Dr. Gureva is here. King Arnold, who was sitting on the throne, felt relieved. To be honest, he was really not sure whether the other party would come. This medical lady who was more than 100 years old was a special person in this country. Gureva walked about 5 meters in front of Minister Mulvaney. Well, I'm here. You are the head of the administration department, right? Let's talk about the medical school. If I'm not satisfied with the doctor, I'll go buy some wine. That she acted rudely, and Minister Mulvaney didn't care. He has been in a high position in the world government for so many years, and his energy-raising skills are still up to standard. And he doesn't really want to stay in this cold kingdom for too long, so this kind of straightforward and happy-go-lucky personality actually suits him very well. Is such that Minister Mulvaney showed no impatience and once again repeated what he had said to King Arnold before, even in more detail. After listening, Gureva fell silent. To be honest, she was tempted. In this life, she has only been obsessed with 2 things, one is drinking, and the other is medicine, especially the latter, which she devoted her whole life to. Whether it is germs from ancient times or new diseases in modern times, she dares to say that she knows a thing or two. Especially her superb surgical skills are the best in the entire magnetic drum medical field. At the same time, she also collects various kinds of diseases. The habits of unpopular drugs are all hidden in a secret base. Just now, Minister Mulvaney said that the medical school will be the highest-level medical research institute under the world government, a place responsible for sorting out and studying all known and unknown drugs, diseases, and medical techniques in the world. If this is true, wouldn't it be a paradise for her? As for creating a promotion system for the world's doctors, being responsible for compiling teaching materials, and being responsible for assessment, she was not very interested in these troublesome things, but fortunately, she is not alone in medical school. The first step is to attract outstanding doctors from the Drum Kingdom. Those with extremely high medical skills will directly enter the medical school, while the second-rate doctors will join the World Hospital. Medical schools and world hospitals are the core of the World Government Medical Development Cooperation Countries project. As long as hospitals in the franchised country encounter difficult and complicated diseases that cannot be solved, they can apply for transfer. Similarly, doctors from other franchised countries can also apply if they want to join medical schools or world hospitals. Both the medical college and the World Hospital decided to build on Tsigu Peak, located on the left side of the main peak where the royal palace and castle is located. Well, would you like to accept the position of dean of the medical school? Upon hearing Minister Mulvaney's solemn inquiry, Gureva was not pretentious and readily agreed. Sounds good, I'll give it a try in a few years. That's good. Once Lieutenant General Pheasant builds the ice bridge and steps, our administrative department will bring the building materials and construction personnel over. After speaking, Minister Mulvaney waved behind him, and a well-prepared attendant from the administration department walked over quickly, holding a document bag in both hands. Although the construction of the medical school has not yet started, the World Government Medical Development Cooperation Countries project has come into effect since King Arnold signed the agreement. In other words, you are already the official dean of the medical school. This is a request from the world government to the first research project assigned by the medical school. He took out a report from the document bag and handed it to Gureva. The latter took it and was surprised to find that it was a disease report. It records in detail the cases of 3 patients and professional comments about the disease, as well as high-definition pictures of the patient's surface and internal conditions. Platinum lead. Gulwa murmured to herself that this was the first time she had seen this kind of disease. Her curiosity was suddenly aroused, and she immersed herself in the content of the report, completely ignoring the surrounding environment and people. Seeing this scene, Minister Mulvaney and Kazan looked at each other with smiles in their eyes. By the way, King Arnold, in addition to this matter, I also hope to bring 20 of the best doctors from the Drum Kingdom back with me to the Holy Land, Marie Joa, for treatment. Marie Joya? Is that descendant of the Creator sick? King Arnold made a very concerned gesture. No, they are treating a group of mermaids and fishmen. The adults above hope to recover from their injuries as soon as possible. Minister Mulvaney said. So that's it. Okay, of course it's no problem. I'll send someone to inform you right away. I believe there will be many doctors interested in mermaids and fishmen. You can stay here for one night and let me entertain you and Lieutenant General Ching Pheasant. Holy Land, Marie Joya, between the moon on the top floor of Pongal Castle. As the saying goes, if a leader opens his mouth, his subordinates will break their legs. After discussing with the 5 old stars, Im gave an order, and the world government, Navy headquarters and cipher pole began to be busy all over the sea. And what about Im and Wulaoxing? The latter was still drinking tea and reading newspapers in the Hall of Power, while the former was lying in a daze on the gold and red luxurious bed. It looked like he was in a daze, but he was actually staring at the latest prompt in his sight. This reminder came out a few days ago, on January 1st, the day of Roger's public execution. The content of the reminder was very brief, just saying there is a new star gate waiting to be opened. The instructions stated that a small star gate 3 meters high and 2 meters wide would appear every year, so he now has 2 small star gates, 2 portals that can lead to unknown planets. Tangled, his main planet has just begun to clean up, and it is completely in its infancy. How can he have the energy to interfere with a planet that knows what? What if there is a particularly terrifying existence there? Although his own strength is undoubtedly the strongest in this pirate world, the universe is so big. Since the description of this star map mentions that there is an unknown civilization, it means that there must be strong people among them, and they may be stronger than themselves. Cautious, it is better to be cautious. At least wait until this year's World Conference reaches a certain stage, and then send a few cipher pole over to investigate. Anyway, it's impossible for him to go in first, so let's leave the risk to the people below. Chapter 29: The Encounter Between Shadow and Flash. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. In the second half of the Great Line, the third island of Route 2 in the New World waters is a winter snow island called by Yasan Island, because it has 3 finished main islands, and some can only be a tiny island that accommodates less than 100 people. This is also the third island of Route 1, so pirates from the 2 routes often meet and fight here. The winner moves on, the loser sinks into the sea. Therefore, the most common things in this place are the wreckage of sea ships and the corpses that were stuck on the beach with wooden sticks to dry. At this time, the island on the east side of the 3 large islands was occupied by 20 strange people with double horns, mouths full of fangs, and a body size of more than 6 meters each. They stepped on the bloody water with murderous intent, walking among the corpses on the ground. Occasionally they heard the sound of dying people, and walked directly past without saying a word, stamping on the chest and giving each other a happy life. Mariah. You must die a good death. You will definitely not end well. It won't be long before, cough cough cough, it won't be long before you bastards will report to the kingdom of hell. Temple tied his hands behind his back and knelt on the blood-stained snow, holding on to the pain all over his body. His eyes, which were red and soaked with tears, cursed wildly at the person in front of him. Just now, those friends who had been together day and night for several years were killed one by these foreign bastards of the Moonlight Pirates. The slim and slender Mariah was sitting on the thickest corpse. A 3-meter-long knife was stuck vertically on the ground on his right hand. He saw the hysterical appearance of the other party and grinned with fangs. The ground is brilliant. It's ugly, it's too ugly. Captain Temple of the Elephant Pirates, you are also a well-known pirate with a bounty of 67 million belly. Can you keep your dignity? But at this time, Captain Temple was already in despair. Knowing that he was bound to die, he didn't care what Moria said at all, and just wanted to seize the time to curse one more time. Hey, that's really boring. I thought he was just a character. Mariah stood up with a disappointed look on his face, grabbed the handle of the knife and pulled it out from the ground, looked up at the bright sun, and smiled. But I appreciate the relationship between you and these friends. Pirate groups like yours are rare, so I decided to give you a gorgeous death. It will definitely be more beautiful than the death of Roger, the Pirate King. Wow, the captain is going to bury them all again. Ha 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 ha, now it's interesting. No matter how many times I've seen it, I always look forward to it, that I saw the crew of the Moonlight Pirates approaching about 10 meters away from Captain Temple, waiting for something to happen with their excited eyes wide open. You! What are you going to do? Captain Temple was extremely frightened and angry when he saw these guys staring at him like clowns, and at the same time, a tall black shadow shrouded him from behind. This made him feel cold and he realized that his death was coming. Are you going to chop off my head from behind? At this moment, the big knife in Moria's hand slashed down, and the rapid sound of breaking through the air made Captain Temple close his eyes as if commanding, and said secretly, "That's good. Our companions just died not long ago. On the way to the land of Underworld, I can catch up." It was just that 1 second, 2 seconds, or 3 seconds seemed to pass in the darkness, but he did not feel the slightest pain. After about 10 seconds, he opened his eyes in confusion. I'm alive. He experienced the heat of the sun. Captain Temple of the War Elephant, Moonlight Moria, who was standing behind him, took a step to the right, and Captain Temple, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly realized that the large shadow in front of him had disappeared. Before he could react, suddenly, there was a severe burning sensation on his back, like a fire, and then spread to his whole body. The cold sunlight shining down from the sky turned into the most cruel punishment at this moment. A shrill scream suddenly appeared. Moonlight. Moria held the newly cut black shadow in his left hand and watched excitedly as Captain Temple was reduced to ashes little by little in the sun. Coming. Ha ha ha, this show is so great. His companions of the same race danced excitedly and jumped up and down from time to time. When Captain Temple's demeanor completely disappeared, the shadow in Mariah's hand also disappeared. He was not surprised at all. Even if the shadow and the entity are cut apart, there is still a certain connection. If the entity changes, the shadow will also change accordingly. Therefore, the entity turns to ashes and the shadow naturally ceases to exist. Hey, we should try our best to capture them alive and let them enjoy the light burial together. That scene would definitely be more beautiful. A crew member of the Moonlight Pirates said with a big smile. The dead ones are actually fine, but the captain doesn't like cutting the shadows of dead people. What's the point of watching the dead turn into ashes? The screams before death are the most attractive thing. Just as a group of tall men were chatting away, Moonlight Moria laughed and cursed. You bastards, why don't you go search their boats and bring all the usable and edible things to our boats? Throw all these corpses into the sea for me to give the fish in the sea a feast. Yes. Captain. Let's go see what's up there. It would be nice if there was wine, but there is no need for meat. There is a pile of Neptune meat on the ship, which is enough to eat. Moonlight Moria saw them happily running towards the ship of the War Elephant Pirates, and happily turned around and walked towards his own pirate ship. Today's sunshine is too bright for him and is not very comfortable. He still prefers a dark environment, but occasionally watching a gorgeous light funeral is a good show. Hey, I finally found you, Moonlight Moria, with a bounty of 120 million belly. Suddenly, a voice with a long, lazy tone sounded from behind. Mariah hurriedly turned around and raised his knife to be on guard. At the same time, he saw with his own eyes a golden flash of light that turned into a figure about half his height not far away. Figure, this man wore a black gentleman's hat and a bright yellow suit underneath. The most important thing was the white justice coat that was gently swaying in the wind and snow. Navy. Moonlight Moria looked grim and said, "It seems that the ability you just used is of the natural system. You are the newly promoted general's backup, Kizaru." "Hey, it's amazing, I guessed it right away." Porcellino put on an expression of surprise, and then asked casually, "In that case, do you want to go with me obediently and let me? Can this mission be ended as soon as possible and you will suffer less pain?" He, although I don't know why your navy is targeting me, you have appeared in front of me, so let's see the strength of the top natural system. Moonlight Moria sneered with a mouth full of sharp fangs, while a pair of eyes stared at Porcellino with malice, and the long knife in his hand was even more eager to try. "It's really troublesome. I knew it wouldn't be that simple." Porcellino took off his gentleman's hat in distress and put it into the pocket of his coat. The next moment, he appeared in front of Moonlight Moria, and at the same time, golden light shone on the latter's face and pupils. The strong light forced him to close his eyes subconsciously, but a soft greeting rang in his ears. Have you ever been kicked by the speed of light? Chapter 30. The Showdown Between Shadow and Flash. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Call out. As a long golden leg flashed past, Moonlight Moria's head shattered into pieces, turning into torn black shadow fragments dancing in the air. Porcellino looked at Moria's body that turned into a purple-black shadow in front of him with confusion. Whoosh. Suddenly, the black shadow suddenly waved the sharp shadow blade in his hand, turning into a black light and slashing across the former's waist, splitting Porcellino in two, but there was no wound or blood at the incision. Instead, there was bright golden light, and then the golden light flashed and appeared in the blink of an eye at the place where he originally stood. "It's so scary." Porcellino looked frightened, looking past the black shadow and looking at Moonlight Moria, who had appeared 50 meters away at some point, with doubts on his face. "Are you also a natural type? But doesn't the information say that you are a superhuman type shadow fruit user?" He, I would like to know why your elemental transformation is immune to my slashing attack. The attack just now was obviously filled with domineering energy. Moonlight Moria showed no interest in introducing his abilities to him, but instead asked him about the past. This was the first time he faced a natural type ability user, so he was not sure whether the domineering energy could harm the elemental form. "Well, who knows?" Porcellino's answer was insincere. "Humph, you'll find out if you look around. I really don't believe that domineering power is useless to you." Moonlight Moria snorted coldly, and then shouted, "Shadow Mage, come with me." Boom, stomping hard on the ground, the nearly 7-meter-tall body accelerated instantly, easily smashing through the air wave generated by the sonic boom, and turned into a huge purple-black afterimage that rushed forward. At the same time, a black shadow with the same shape as him, holding a shadow blade, approached Porcellino first and started to chop. Tian Song Yun sword. Porcellino moved faster, and casually drew out a golden long sword made entirely of light particles, instantly blocking the attack of the shadow blade. Next, in less than 2 seconds, the shadow blade and the lightsaber kept slashing at each other at a high speed that was extremely blurry to the naked eye. Black light and golden light jingled into a ball, and circles of light were generated in the midair. Ripple-like air waves and occasional slashes cut long and ferocious cracks on the ground. The next second, Moonlight Moria's body approached. He tried to get behind Porcellino, but the latter dodged and retreated a few meters, leaving no chance for a flanking attack. In desperation, Moria had no choice but to launch quick attacks with the Shadow Mage on the left and right, swinging dangerous purple-black slashes with the sword. Porcellino waved his sword to resist. While observing the situation between the two, he found that this so-called Shadow Mage, whether it was strength, speed, or reaction, was basically the same as Moria's body, only the haki was strong or weak. The shadow blade of the former was only wrapped with a weak layer of armed haki, while the haki aura on the long sword of the latter was extremely strong and even hardened the blade, but in terms of swordsmanship alone, he is obviously stronger, although Moria's sword skills are also quite good. Also, speed. Porcellino turned into a flash of light again, disappeared in the blink of an eye, and then appeared on the left side of Moria's body and struck with his sword. Fortunately, the latter's level of domineering was pretty good and he reacted immediately. but it was too late to block him with his knife. As for using the armed domineering force to harden the body and test the sharpness of the Tian sword, I couldn't even think about it. The lightsaber was obviously wrapped with a layer of domineering energy. Shadow Warrior. At this critical moment, Moria once again used the ability of the Shadow Fruit to exchange places with his own shadow, that is Shadow Mage. Porcellino raised his eyebrows when he saw this scene, but Moria didn't hesitate at all and immediately launched his killing move. Flying Bat. With a bang, that a Shadow Mage in front of the former suddenly exploded and turned into dense shadow bats that rushed forward. They spread out and surrounded Porcellino from multiple directions like a black net. It's just that although this move was sudden, the latter also had the domineering power of seeing and hearing. Coupled with the unstoppable speed of the flashing fruit, he instantly avoided the bites of all the bats and was already high in the sky when he reappeared. Hey, what a troublesome ability! Porcellino rubbed his chin and looked down in distress. At the same time, Moonlight Moria on the ground stared at the sky with a frown, and cursed in a low voice. This guy's speed is too fast, how can we fight him? In his opinion, the swordsmanship between the two sides was evenly matched, and no one could rely on it to gain an advantage. What they had to fight for was their domineering and devil fruit abilities. In terms of armed hockey and knowledge hockey, he seems to be at a slight disadvantage, and in terms of ability, it seems that no one can do anything about him. The combination of Shadow Mage and Shadow Warrior is equivalent to elementalization plus space transformation. However, it is more than enough to protect oneself, and it is too difficult to hurt Porcellino. It seems like it will take a long time. This battle. Moonlight Moria thought secretly in his heart. Suddenly, he thought of his fellow comrades. The fight here is like this, why haven't they discovered it yet? Beep, but Porcellino didn't give him a chance to check on his comrades. The Tian sword in his hand had disappeared, and a dazzling golden flash lit up at his fingertips. Call out! Call out! Call out! 3 flash beams were fired out, and their speed was so fast that they approached Yuiguang Maria in an instant. However, the latter took a few steps casually with the domineering power of his knowledge, and easily avoided the laser rays. He, what's the use of this? Moria sneered. Although Porcellino seems to be better at hockey than him, the gap is not big enough to predict his predictions, but the next second, when the flash beam fell on the snow behind him, 3 bright red explosive fireballs expanded. The high-temperature flames and shock waves immediately swallowed up the large snowflakes, and Moonlight Moria, Beep, Porcellino, who was high in the air, was very indifferent to this scene, and continued to fire the flash beam on his finger, 3 more times. Can't you switch places with your shadow clone? Okay, then just blow them up together, just keep hiding and watching. Whoosh! Suddenly, a change occurred. Amidst the continuous explosions and flames, a huge purple-black slash appeared, temporarily cutting through the flames and air waves. Immediately afterwards, that a Shadow Mage soared into the sky, and as soon as he flew in front of Porcellino, the black color on his body quickly faded, and he turned into a slightly embarrassed Moria himself. Die to me! The 3-meter-long sword slashed out violently. The sharp blade was wrapped with a thick purple-black shadow blade and rich armed domineering force, splitting Porcellino in half from top to bottom. It's just that the situation is the same as before. There is no blood. Instead, it turns into 2 golden lights, one on the left and one on the right, and then merges into one in the mid-air in the distance. That annoying and wretched face appears again. Hey, your shadow clone can also fly, it's really a terrifying ability. Porcellino pouted and looked surprised, but when he saw Moria falling down, he grinned and said, I see, you can't fly after changing positions. However, the latter's damaged clothes and furious expression showed that the previous explosion of 6 flashing beams had a certain effect. If that's the case, then increase your efforts. When the Moonlight Moria just fell back to the ground full of scorched earth pits, it was like there was an extra sun in the sky, and the dazzling golden light covered the entire blue sky. 8-foot beautiful Magatama.